2 days from the Super Bowl, changes are already afoot. That is Klint Kubiak, who used to be the offensive coordinator for the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, who was getting doused with green and blue confetti just a couple days ago. Now all silver and black. He is introduced as the Raiders head coach today. For the New England Patriots, the team that Klint Kubiak's teams beat, it is all about their young left tackle, Will Campbell. Big topic of conversation after a rough Super Bowl. What is his future? Where does he go from here? And physically, just how is he? We're going to get into all of those things. And we're getting into Drake Thomas, one of the unsung heroes for the Seattle defense. Man, he is an absolute baller. You may not have heard of him. If you watch The Insiders, you will tonight. Welcome inside with The Insiders. I am Ian Rappaport. That is Mike Garafolo. Tom Pelissero is currently on the beach sipping a Mai Tai. Judy is touring around Barcelona with a map. So it is all, I don't know if either of those things are true. It is all us tonight, and we got a lot to get into, including the Las Vegas Raiders. New today, they have a head coach. Among some of the Raiders greats like Marcus Allen, Howie Long, Mike Haynes, Charles Woodson. Is Rich Gannon going to join the picture? I bet he is, because I've seen this before. Klint Kubiak, there he is. Klint Kubiak met with reporters, not of many luminaries, but still reporters nonetheless, to tell you all about his plans for being the Raiders coach.
The main thing is this is no ordinary job. You know, this is the silver and black. This is the Raiders. This is a historic franchise. So, you know, when the opportunity came up to stay in Seattle and continue there, or to have a chance to come here and compete with this organization, it was a no-brainer. You have to earn the second game. You know, like this league, if you don't take care of business, then you get chewed up and spit out real quick. And every one of us up here has been through that. So, I'm going to have to earn the right to coach this whole season, to coach the next season. I got to show Mr. Davis that our program is about the right things, and we're developing these players. So I don't take for granted how long I'm going to be here. I know that I have to earn it every day.
Now, those fans in that building will for sure hold him accountable. A lot to get into with the Raiders head coach finally speaking after pretending that he was only the Seattle offensive coordinator for about a week or so. Steve Weiss, Brian Baldinger joining me, Ian Rappaport, and Mike Garafolo. Weiss, I want to start with you. There was a lot that we heard from Klint Kubiak. Talked about how he had coffee with Max Crosby. Talked about how he was going to speak to Tom Brady a lot. Talked about just why this job is so special to him. What did you take away from the introductory press conference, and what do you think about the new Raiders coach?
Well, I'll tell you what, the main thing I took was, you heard him just mention the silver and black, but he did not linger on the history or the logo or the slogans that the Raiders have. I mean, a lot of times the last couple of coaches we've had in there, commitment to excellence, just win, baby. He pushed things forward, and I think that should be a good sign, at least optically, for the new head coach. Klint Kubiak knows what it takes to win. And just hearing some of the things he said and some of the players who showed up, Ashton Jeanty was there, Brock Bowers was there. These are the people he's going to be building his offense around. I think that was key. Now, he said he had coffee with Max Crosby. We'll see where that goes. But again, I think Kubiak coming in there with this offensive head mind, growing up with a father who is a player, a coordinator, and a head coach, I think that'll be significant. When he puts his staff together, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a chapter from Mike Macdonald, where he came from in Seattle, and has a former head coach in there to help him, just much like Macdonald had Leslie Frazier there to help him kind of plug any gaps. So again, I thought it was very encouraging that Kubiak pointed the arrow more forward, even though he's there surrounded by a lot of the past, that the arrow isn't really lingering on that history, and again, trying to go in another direction.
But not only his father, former head coach and offensive coordinator from around the league and former quarterback, but that is a descent from Mike Shanahan. This is a disciple of the Mike Shanahan tree, all the way to Kyle and now down to Klint Kubiak. And so there is a proven system here, even when he was in New Orleans last year.
Right.
I mean, there's a little page to take. They were the number one offense football the first 2 weeks of the season, and they were undefeated in 2-0, and then the offensive line fell apart, injury by injury, and everything else fell apart. And really, the takeaway from that is the Raiders have got to build an offensive line. They got to stop letting good players go. Caleb Chason, Jermaine Illuminar, Devontae Adams, Robert Spillane. The Raiders have been a farm system for other teams in this league. They've got to stop that. Spytek and Klint right here, they're going to be joined at the hip. They've got to find talent. They've got to build this thing from the inside out. That's what Seattle did under Mike McDonald. They built it in the trenches. And I think the system can work if the offensive line, the defensive front, if those guys go at it every day in practice. That's where it's got to start. And so I hope they're patient, because they haven't been very patient over the last 5 head coaches.
This is going to be a different tone. Steve, what you were talking about, you go in as the coach of the Raiders and you think you've got to sell this kind of Raider-like energy and a literal pirate, right? In Klint Kubiak's case, it's going to be a bit of a different tone, right? He's more of a reserved, cerebral type of guy. That's the way he's been as an offensive coordinator. He's not that fiery guy like, let's say, Antonio Pierce, even Josh McDaniels, John Gruden, certainly. So the last couple of coaches have been typical Raider-type personalities. So let's see what Klint Kubiak can do as more of a reserved personality. There's different ways to get it done. You've got to be yourself. And for him to be himself is going to have to be that more reserved guy, the kind of like I'm talking about. So be interested to see his sideline demeanor if it remains the same as it was as an offensive coordinator. It's probably the best recipe for success for him.
I actually had a lot of conversations about this when he was a candidate at several places. Remember, he had essentially the choice of Arizona or the Raiders and chose the Raiders. People who know him well say he absolutely has an edge to him. We just don't see it when he's talking to us and talking to players. It's really when, look, we are going to see whether or not that is the case. You don't have to be the most fiery coach. Kellen Moore's doing a nice job in New Orleans. He kind of has a similar demeanor. What was interesting to me is some of the hot button issues for the Las Vegas Raiders. He kind of just dipped his toe in. The Max Crosby thing, talked about how he believes Max is a big part of what they are doing. Still unclear whether or not he will be traded as he gets ready and recovers from that lengthy knee injury, the meniscus repair, and then wouldn't commit to Fernando Mendoza being their #1 overall pick. Said he's got a lot of film to watch to determine whether or not that is the case. Sounds like it probably will be based on a lot of people I've spoken with, but still just getting started for what should be a climb for the Raiders and the hope to set the foundation for years to come. The New England Patriots set the foundation. Thanks, guys, by the way. New England Patriots set the foundation, going from really bad to really good in the Super Bowl. It just didn't go as well as it did for Kubiak's old team, the Seattle Seahawks. Look, there's going to be a lot of fallout from this year. There's plenty of questions. Most importantly, they are headed in the right direction, but still, Drake May and some others talk all about it.
I know, I didn't play as well as I would have liked down the stretch, and I'm a promise to do my best to work hard and get us back to those moments in those games, and can't wait to be back in Gillette and looking forward to next year. So thank you guys. Go Pats.
I just wanted to say I apologize about the other night not being available to talk. Just had a lot of emotions, obviously going after tough loss, long year. Just a lot of emotions come with that. I just wanted to make sure that I had my head on properly before I said anything. I didn't want to say anything that I didn't need to say, and I know that can happen, especially with myself, whenever there's emotions involved. So just wanted the night to sleep on things. It comes with the job when you don't perform. Obviously, I was picked high and paid a lot, so people expect a certain thing, and I expect more of myself. So whenever I don't perform, I don't expect, everyone to be like, "It's okay, buddy." Obviously it sucks, but it doesn't suck for anyone more than it sucks for me.
When you sign up to play left tackle, you sign up to play corner, you sign up to play quarterback, you sign up to be the head coach. You get judged, you get scrutinized. Will's 22 years old. He's our left tackle. He'll get better. He'll get stronger. There's moments where he played well, moments where he blocked a guy. There's plays he'd like to have back. We're not moving Will to guard or to center or to tight end or anywhere else. So I don't know what to tell you.
All right, that last part, get that cough out. That last part, very important, Baldy. I want to talk to you directly on that one. But Cameron Wolfe, you were there covering this Patriots team all week. You saw the post-game scene. You saw what Will Campbell was like. Take us through that post-game locker room and the fallout from this game.
Yeah, Mike, I walk up to Will Campbell's locker after the game. You could see tears in his eyes. His head is fully down. He knows he didn't play well. Next Gen Stat has him allowing 14 quarterback pressures, more than any offensive lineman in a game this season. It was bad. He knew it was bad. And when I asked him to talk, he said, "I've got nothing for you." Obviously, he apologized for that today, talked to the media, but to get the Will Campbell question kind of in order, I talked to some people around the league. There was questions, should he move to guard? Teron Armstead, who was a Pro Bowl left tackle for many, many years, gave me this review. He said it has nothing to do with his arm length. He said it was his set. He's having issues with power, his timing with the punches. He actually volunteered to have Will Campbell work out with him. Teron Armstead did in Dallas this summer. He said he believes his issues are fixable. As far as those particular power issues, he said a lot of times he's working backwards and not necessarily set as the defensive lineman comes about him. And so he thinks that's just time that you need rep-wise, and that he can still be a really good tackle in this league. Certainly he's a guy that cares a lot, that works hard at it. He's got a lot of spotlight on him for playing poorly in the Super Bowl, and hopefully that gets the most out of him. But a spotlight on this New England team because they gave up 21 sacks in the playoffs. It was by far their biggest issue, and they've got to get that fixed next year for Drake May to be able to get over the top.
That was great info. And Baldy, last night we talked about they have to decide if he's a tackle or a guard. Mike Vrabel making it very quick. He is still our tackle. So pretend you're now Teron Armstead, who said he would be willing to work with Will Campbell. How do you approach this with him? Because I know you're a big Will Campbell guy, and we're certainly not calling it a career for him already.
No. I mean, it was not a good month of January, early February for Will. I do know he's got a problem with his left leg. I mean, he couldn't plant right there against Derek Hall. He couldn't just really anchor down, and now he's just lunging. So now he's overcompensating for the bad leg. He probably shouldn't have been out there, but that's what pros do. They play through it. There's a lot of technique work that has to get done. I mean, I'm best friends with Lane Johnson. He'll tell you his rookie year wasn't very good. He's a candidate to be a high ballot Hall of Famer one day. But this is where you got to go to work now. Like, you go back and you watch all these games against Will Anderson and against Derek Hall and some of the guys that he saw in the postseason, and then you start working at it. You start working on the technique where your punch is better, you get to your contact spot. There's a lot of technique work here that can make up for some of the bad plays that we saw from Will. He knows it. Nobody feels it worse. You don't sleep at night after a game like that. It's just a running clock in your head of the repeat of these plays. And the good thing is, I think he knows already what he needs to work on. I think there's a coach inside Will's head that's saying, this is what I need to work on. Let me go out there against Caleb on Chase on. Let me go out there, against Harold Landry. Let's start getting some work in as soon as I can right now.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the more underrated things for fans, Baldy, is like, guys do get better. They think like, oh, this is now Will Campbell. This is Campbell now. What is he going to be next year? We'll see what kind of work he puts in the offseason. Meanwhile, Cam, I want to go back to you. Drake May obviously struggled a little bit, till kind of catching fire a little bit late in the fourth quarter. What did you make of Drake May, his shoulder, and then, the performance of the offense in general?
Yeah, just like Will Campbell, he was very emotional after the game. I saw him as he's waiting to take a cart to get to the press conference room. His head's down. You could tell that he had some tears in his eyes. Look, he didn't play the best this previous game. His offensive line didn't give him much of a chance, but he's a young quarterback. One thing I noticed talking to Seahawks defenders after the game, they thought they had a lot of tells on this Patriots offense, in particular with Drake May. They thought they were able to confuse him with some coverage looks and be really aggressive based on the pre-snap looks they've had. So Drake May and this Patriots offense is going to have to go back to the drawing board in the offseason. How can we be prepared for people who have tape on us now? It's a young team. They're going to get better, but they ran into a lot of top 5 defenses in the playoffs, and it certainly took advantage of them. That's where they're going to have to take that next step, whether that means more weapons. They're going to have a decision coming up on Stephon Diggs. He told me in the locker room he hopes he is back. They have a decision to make on his cap space. But Carlton Davis, their cornerback, left me with this message. He said, we are going to be back. He said, if people are writing us off as a one-year fluke, tell them to turn around and wake up, because we're going to be here. We got an MVP quarterback, and we're only getting better. So everybody's doing their funeral today. The Patriots think this is just the start of a new foundation for them.
Yeah, certainly their fans do. And Cam, thank you very much. Great stuff. Baldy as well. Neither of you guys go anywhere. I don't think. We'd love to talk to you more if you wouldn't mind sticking around a little bit. So it was a tough day for the Patriots, no doubt about it. A great season and a tough day. We are not done dissecting this Patriots loss and what's next. For the Seahawks, I would say just the opposite. Did I say Seahawks? I'm sorry. I meant Seahawk. One actual Seahawk. Anyway, let's get to one of them. Drake Thomas coming up next on The Insiders.
That's all we do, baby. The dark side. Let's go. He gets hit, and he is dragged down.
He tackled both Jared Wilson and the quarterback.
Run and hit. That's all we know. They don't get nothing.
May steps up in the pocket. He gets hit. Falls on the ground.
Oh, yes! Yeah!
The Seahawks defense, they have done it again. 6th sack of the game. It's intercepted. The Seahawks win Super Bowl 60, and the party begins, and it won't stop for days.
Yeah, you're right about that, Steve Rabel, because we're on day 3 of the celebration, I guess, and day 4 is going to be the parade. And Drake Thomas is going to be a part of that, just as big a part of it as he was a part of the Seahawks defense this year. Talk about those stats right there. And the way you cap an amazing season there, right down the bottom, yeah. 1 Super Bowl ring. Doesn't have it yet, but they're going to be making those soon. Drake Thomas, now we can add to the stat line. 1 appearance on the Insiders. Hopefully the first of many. Drake, welcome to the show. We said last week for an interview today, we said we want Drake. We didn't know if it would be Thomas or May. We wind up getting Thomas here. Congratulations. How's it been the last couple days?
Thanks, and I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been awesome being able to, like I said, celebrate this great win, great ending to an amazing season. So it's been so much fun to do this with my teammates and coaches.
We got a lot to get to about the game and the celebration and all that you're going to go through and that you have gone through. But I want to, before we get to all that, I want to take a look back at about 3 years ago. You were an undrafted free agent. You get released by the Raiders, and you get claimed by Seattle. And that was a long time ago, and it was a lot of games ago, and it was 1 ACL ago. But did you ever think that that moment right there of getting claimed by the Seahawks would make you a Super Bowl champion?
No, not honestly, no. It's been a crazy journey. I'm so thankful for every single step. And I mean, I was super excited to get to Seattle, but you kind of, it's hard to imagine anything like this. So it's such a blessing, and I'm so fortunate to be a part of this amazing organization and be able to do this with the people that I'm doing it with. So.
Drake, I'm on the Insiders tonight. I'm on Good Morning Football tomorrow. I already looked at some of the topics, and they said, what's your most memorable moment from the Seahawks Super Bowl season? Can think of some in the playoffs for sure, but I'm going back to that game against San Francisco, 13-3. They're driving deep in your territory, and you make the play. Give me a little juice that I can use on the show tomorrow. What do you remember about that play and how important it was?
That play, I remember I'm one-on-one coverage, probably against the best receiving running back in the NFL. It was Christian McCaffrey, and I'm playing one-on-one coverage on him, trying to play inside out, have him break outside and run it down from that point. And as I'm trying to beat him to the pylon, ball pops into my hands, and I come down with it. It happened so fast. I come down with it, and then it was just excitement. I didn't know what to do after that. It was awesome.
And what's crazy is, so that was a great moment, and winning division was great, and it really paved the way for what you guys have done. And you mentioned that happening fast. It feels like it always sort of happens fast, right? Like you're the number 1 seed, then you get through the playoffs. Next thing you know, you're in the Super Bowl. Now we're interviewing you after having won. Has it slowed down at all? Have you taken some moments to be like, I can't believe this happened? Or what's it been like just sort of relishing this the last couple days?
Yeah, we're really just trying to be in the moment and soak all this in right now. Trying to be really present and grateful for where we're at, what we've done, and the journey that we've came on. So that's definitely the emphasis right now, is just enjoying this and having a great time with our teammates and families and coaches to celebrate what we've done this season.
starting to see some breakdowns from the film junkies, the X's and O's gurus, and you're getting a lot of people saying, boy, what a defensive game plan in the Super Bowl by Mike Macdonald and the Seahawks defense. Did you feel that way? I mean, did you feel like the entire game you guys were sort of one step ahead of New England?
Yeah, it was awesome. And when to go off of that, when they did get something early in the game, I felt like the next play, we just played the next play and we shut them down with second and short to third down, whatever it was. We just continued to buy in and stick together and play our style of football. I mean, it's a decision we made back in OTAs about who we wanted to be. And I think we showed up every single day throughout this season and just continued to attack getting better in whatever way that is, whatever the emphasis, whatever the intention was for that day. We just showed up every single day ready to get better, and it led to being Super Bowl champions.
You become one of the names that I think, hardcore football watchers probably knew, but common fan probably just learning your name really through the playoffs and some of the huge plays that you made through the playoffs. But the guys with you in your linebacker core, a lot of the big names, Ernest, Nwosu, it is a really, really good linebacker core. What was it like playing with those guys, and what do you feel like the mentality of that group kind of meant to this defense?
It's so much fun playing with those guys, starting with EJ because we're in the middle playing next to each other. I couldn't think or ask for a better person to play next to. He's the ultimate competitor. He's just a dog. I mean, he finds the football. He makes so many plays around the football. He's physical. He's violent. And he's a great leader. So I love having him next to me. And then going to the outside backers, just the mentality that they take, and they take pride in rushing the passer, stopping the run first, but then rushing the passer. Just a selfless group all together, just doing whatever it takes for the greater good of the team. So it's been so much fun to be a part of the linebacker group. Seahawks for sure.
We're seeing shots of the celebration after the game on Sunday. What's the plan for tomorrow? What can we expect from you and your teammates to make this parade special?
I mean, we're gonna do what we know how to do. We're gonna have fun with each other. We're gonna just celebrate with each other, and we're so connected. We have such great relationships. I don't know what exactly I don't know if I can give you specifics of what's gonna go down, but I just know it's gonna be a lot of fun.
So this was a pretty big deal. Winning the Super Bowl is very, very important. Is it possible that it is not the best moment of your offseason? Because from what I hear, you're getting married pretty soon.
Yeah, I got like 27 days until my wedding. So there's a lot going on in a short window of time. But we're all super excited for it. It's such a blessing.
Yeah, double ring this offseason. I would say this, between the late playoff run, the wedding, you're going to be back at OTAs before you know it. So get your breaths where you possibly can. Not tomorrow. Go all out. Leave nothing on the field tomorrow, Drake. Enjoy it, pal. You earned it, and we appreciate you being here on The Insiders.
No doubt. I appreciate you guys.
All right, thanks, man.
Got to love the Drake. Tua, we're going to be talking about him, his future, as well as some other quarterback storylines. That's next on The Insiders.
When you have an 8.5-hour pregame show on NFL Network, you got a lot of ground to cover and a lot of topics get unearthed, including the latest on Lamar Jackson. Now, look, there have been some rumors here, Mike, about Lamar over the course of the offseason, and those are going to continue, especially with the Raiders having the #1 pick and needing a quarterback. One thing we learned on Sunday, does not sound like Lamar Jackson is going anywhere. Instead, the focus seems to be on the Baltimore Ravens, new coach Jesse Minter, and the new offensive coordinator and everything they have, and focusing on getting Lamar Jackson right, getting him an age, and getting him paid. Sounds like the contract talks for Lamar Jackson should kick into gear, and Mike, after him helping consult on some assistant coaches and head coach and all of that, seems like his role is pretty secure there in Baltimore, Mike.
Meanwhile, elsewhere in the AFC North, Aaron Rodgers has spoken with Mike McCarthy. Our Tom Pelissero reported that the odds of him coming back are increasing. Obviously, they have a connection, those two. I'd like to see that reunion. That would be fun. So that's the potential return for Rodgers. I'm sure he'll make a decision here in the coming days or weeks or months. I'm sure we'll get a decision soon, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully by May or June or even July. Why not August? Why not September? We'll see if we get a decision about Derek Carr coming soon. That was some news we all on the Insiders talked about on Sunday, that Derek Carr seems open to coming out of retirement. And I think more importantly, teams are interested in him. Going to be fascinating to see where his shoulder is. He did not need surgery, but he rehabbed and has proclaimed himself ready, according to what we're told. Which team is going to trade with the Saints to get Derek Carr out of retirement? Tune in a couple weeks, or maybe tomorrow. I have no idea, Mike.
Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, it seemed like they were potentially moving toward a divorce when he sort of got injured, and we just never saw him again late in the season last year. Ian, as you put it the other day, Cardinals likely to move on from Kyler Murray. Now, there's a $36 million cash hit that's going to come with this, so it does avoid the trigger for the next year, even more guaranteed. That's the way the contract is structured, to sort of force you into making these decisions year after year. So the Cardinals are going to have to eat some significant money here. Now, if they can trade him, obviously that's ideal. But if somebody's taking on the bulk or all that money, Ian, don't expect a lot of compensation back, Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be challenging to trade him. When you got guaranteed money into this year, those trades are tough to pull off. Miami Dolphins might find out as well. They would like to trade Tua Tagovailoa, as far as I know, move on from him and just kind of start new with the new regime. The problem is he's got fully guaranteed money and didn't have the greatest of years, if we're being totally honest. Got benched for Quinn Ewers, and it was all kind of weird. Let's bring in our good friend Cam Wolf, who covers the Miami Dolphins very closely, to sort it all out. So I mentioned Tua. We talked about the potential divorce. Talked about Quinn Ewers, the new head coach. Why don't you just tell us what's going to happen over the next month or so, Cam? You're right there. You got it all.
Got the crystal ball, right? No, I think there's going to be a lot of change starting in that quarterback room. As you mentioned, Ian, the Dolphins are going to try to move on from Tua Tagovailoa. That's what I've heard. The preferred route is trade. They would love to get something of value from the quarterback. At the very least, get some money off the books. He's set to make $54 million guaranteed. That's going to be the big sticking point. From what I understand, the Dolphins have shown a willingness to eat some of that money if they can find a trade partner for Tua. That's what the conversations we're going to see heading into the combine and free agency. Can they find a partner that will take some of the money and maybe give them a small asset to be able to move on from Tua Tagovailoa? He's expressed a desire to want a fresh start too. It did not work this past year. It seems like whether mentally, whether physically, he was not the same player they paid the big money deal to. And so they're prepared to bring in other quarterbacks as far as a quarterback competition. As far as potential partners for a trade, there's always more teams that need a quarterback. You know, you look at Minnesota, you look around the league at Atlanta, you look at the New York Jets and Pittsburgh. There's hope that maybe they can find one of those teams as a partner. And then, yes, Quinn Ewers would be incumbent in the room and maybe bring in a guy in the draft or free agency. They don't have a lot of money, so don't expect this to be a heavy spending free agency. And they're expected to move on from several key veterans that make a lot of money on their payroll going into the new year.
Look, that was one of the best deals that we've seen in recent NFL history from the player's perspective, not from the team's perspective, but from the player's perspective for Tua Tagovailoa to get that kind of money and that kind of guaranteed money. It's sort of those pass-fail situations that sometimes you're in. Like, if you're going to extend your quarterback, the number sort of is what the number is. You couldn't have said, well, we'll take him for $30 million a year. Like, he wasn't going to sign that deal at that point, and you've got to sort of commit there if you want to keep things moving in the right direction with your franchise quarterback. The Panthers, though, I would say right now, take a look at this one because Bryce Young's sort of in that same little bit of mold here where it hasn't been all perfect, and some people say, well, are there limitations with him? And, you know, is he the franchise quarterback where you go, okay, whatever the price is, top of the market, top five, whatever it is, and that's why we maybe expect that there won't be a deal between Young and the Panthers if recent history with the Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa is any indication, Ian.
Well, that's interesting. That'll be an interesting one to watch, too. I'm kind of fascinated by this. Look, it's going to be bad for the Dolphins if they move on from Tua, which, again, we all expect it's going to be expensive, almost $100 million of dead cap. We have seen it done. What the Denver Broncos have done is the model, right? I mean, they have a young, good, cheap quarterback who can kind of get them to deal with the cap hits, and then when the money gets off the books, which actually it now is for the Denver Broncos, they can start to fill in the team. They have someone on the roster who is a big name, former big name player from college who's really cheap and at one point was highly touted. Still fell to the 7th round, did Quid Ewers. But interesting to see where the talent is. If he's able to play like he did in spots at the end of last year, they might have something here, and that might be the one to get them through this whole thing. I expect them to bring in some competition. We'll see where that goes. But really, really intriguing quarterback situation for Miami. Cam, good stuff. Thank you very much. As always, Mike, you're going to be there, so I'm not really saying anything to you. You just stay right there. Look at these guys go. Look at Seattle go. If I was celebrating, that would be me. Ski goggles and a cigar, maybe some bourbon. Maybe all of it at the same time. Anyway, more on all that coming up next on The Insiders.
Sam stops, looks, throws, got a man wide open. Touchdown! Seahawks from 16 out. A.J. Barner on a perfect pass. Darnold, we have seen him throw that before. The Seahawks win Super Bowl 60. They are bringing the Lombardi back to the Northwest, and the party begins.
We were watching that touchdown with Tom Pelissero in our little cool trailer for the Insiders during the Super Bowl. And Tom
Very
goes,
cool trailer.
A.J. Barner's turned into a pretty good player. And it's like, you know what? He really has. A lot of players on the Seahawks we are just learning about, and man, a lot of them turned into very good players. Welcome back in with the Insiders, Ian Rappaport, Mike Garofalo, Steve Weish hanging out with us. Steve, I want to go to you, talk about the Seahawks a little bit. If you could dig a little deeper. I mean, look, they finished on an unbelievable run. Certainly were dominant over the Patriots. What would you say, like, the turning point for Seattle was this year? How did this all happen?
By the way, A.J. Barner has been a very good player all season long. He might be the most underrated tight end in the NFL. But let's get to that inflection point. And I think it was I would believe to say it's that Week 16 overtime comeback victory against the Rams. Remember, they were down 16. Rashid Shaheed comes back, kicks it off with the punt return, and they get it going. But the first point to that is that allowed them to secure the number 1 seed in home field advantage. Then you had this fluke 2-point conversion, which helped them convert 3 2-point conversions and get the win. But I want to go back to the Rashid Shaheed punt return because that also highlighted and amplified how good their special teams were. Because Shaheed, when they play the Niners in the final week of the season for home field, he returns a kickoff on the opening kickoff that leads to the route. Where were most of the points coming from in the Super Bowl from Seattle in the first half? Jason Myers ends up with 5 field goals. So it amplified how good their special teams were. And lastly, that game against the Rams was the first time all season long that running game actually got going. Explosive runs with Kenneth Walker. The rest of the season, they were topping 100 with ease for a couple weeks. Zach Charbonnet was platooning with Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet gets hurt. It is all Kenneth Walker, and he killed it all through the postseason. So again, that game right there was the inflection point that we saw high note after high note register consistently with Seattle all the way through the Super Bowl.
You mentioned Kenneth Walker, one of the team's key free agents. Reek Woolen, another one. Rashid Shaheed. He was a free agent. That's why he was available. Show them all, baby. These are a bunch of guys here that
pretty good list.
Either need to be taken care of or will find work elsewhere. Steve, first order of business for the Seahawks when looking at this list here.
Well, that's not the first order of business. The first order of business, and you guys know this, could be the potential sale of the team. As we've seen that this team is in a trust and it could be put up for sale. If you know, Jody Allen is the caretaker of the team right now. She's a hands-off owner. If this does come up for sale, we know that is a long process, but depending on who could possibly take over the team, that could hang over this organization. And as we know, different owners, hands-on, hands-off, tight with the purse strings, loose with the purse strings. We'll see how that part goes. Then replacing Klint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator. That's the next step. We saw how vital he was in getting Sam Darnold right and getting that running game going and getting the offense going. Now, it would seem kind of a natural, and this is what Seattle has done historically, but again, new regime is to promote from the inside. You've got someone like passing game coordinator Jake Peets or John Benton, same guys who kind of run the system that Sam Darnold is comfortable in. And lastly, let's get to the Kenneth Walker situation and those free agents. We saw how strong Kenneth Walker was at the end of the season. I just talked about it. He is someone that does not have a lot of tread on the tires. Guys, in his 4 seasons, because he's platooned, he has 954 touches. That's including catches. Not a big receiver, but again, he is not someone with a lot of wear and tear. By comparison, Christian McCaffrey had almost half of those amount of touches this season alone. So Seattle wants to go ahead and re-sign him. They know they still have a young, fresh player who they can probably get on a pretty good deal, and he works in that system. You mentioned Reek Woolen and Josh Jobe. Those are two of their anchor cornerbacks. It'll be interesting to see how they play that because we know Reek Woolen's name came up around the trade deadline as someone they could possibly move. But again, this doesn't seem like there's a radical shift in personnel, but teams have to freshen the roster every year or else it can get old or stale real quick.
With Reek Woolen, you talked about that buzz around the trade deadline where they did have some teams checking in on him, decided you need a lot of corners if you're going to win the Super Bowl, and they held on to him, and a smart move in the end. But there's a question whether or not he's an ideal fit for their system. Wouldn't be surprised if he winds up elsewhere. But you can't keep them all, Steve. You just try to do the best that you possibly can if you're John Schneider, who did a great job this year. Thank you, Steve Weish, always doing a great job for us here on The Insider.